The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you top experts in the fields of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. Another great expert today, one of my favorites. He's been with us well over a year, Dr. Eldred Taylor. Before I get to Dr. Taylor, today's show is brought to you by Henningen's Injury Attorneys. If you get injured, contact attorney Henningen, and you can call him at 404-835-4935. We are going to be talking about stress today, and I cannot wait to talk to Dr. Taylor about this, because I think you turn on the news, you look at the economy, go to the grocery store, go to the gas station. We are filled with stress. Good morning, Dr. Taylor.
Hello, good morning. How are you doing?
We got to get rid of this stress, Dr. Taylor. It's going to be the death of us.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we wrote a book called The Stress Connection, and that primarily came out of a study. It's probably been 15 years ago now that I read. And it said 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related complaints or disorders. So I know we've done a lot of shows on stress, but 75 to 90% of the time, that's the cause of the reason why you're going to the doctor. So when I would go and speak to docs, I was like, we need to be an expert on stress if it's affecting 75 to 90% of our visits. So, like I said, this is one of my favorite topics because it is connected to everything from weight loss to hormones to mental function to how your gut functions to cancer. So everything has some connection to stress.
Well, I got to tell you, Dr. Taylor has got a wonderful practice in Atlanta. If you are, for some reason, listening to the show or watching the show today outside the Atlanta area, Dr. Taylor also does telemedicine. And Dr. Taylor, why didn't we think about this years and years ago? Why did we have to wait until a pandemic reached us?
Yeah. Well, early on, if you didn't have a license in a particular state, you couldn't practice, whether you were in person or whether you were, doing something online. But with COVID, that all changed because, people couldn't travel. People couldn't go to the doctor. You didn't want to sit in a waiting room that had 30 other people in it. So the laws really loosened up. And then it's just technology. Now, if you go to a doctor in person, it's very unlikely that he's even going to put his hands on you. Maybe you get a stool, you get a prostate exam, once every couple of years. But so much is technology now. You do heart scans, you do MRIs, whatever. So telemedicine can do a lot. You can order labs and get them sent to you wherever you are in the world. So it makes a lot of sense. And people are so mobile. You'll have a doctor, while you're living here in Atlanta, you move to Nashville or Louisville or whatever, and it takes you time to find a doctor. You can still communicate and be treated by the doctor, that you're in your original city or whatever.
Dr. Taylor, we usually discuss what we're going to talk about on the show. And I don't mean to throw you a curveball, but I trust you so much. They say that we're living longer, which I'm sure it's probably true.
Mhm.
But I start looking at the people who are passing in their 50s, in their 60s,
Yeah.
and people who were supposedly healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm not the healthiest person.
Mhm.
And we were talking before we went on the air that everything seems to be surrounded by weight and even sleep. I didn't realize sleep was so important,
Yeah.
but I really feel like I look back and I look at how stressful things are. I mean, might be going to a nuclear war. You know, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to the gas station, I mean, everywhere we look, there's so many stressful things.
Yeah.
How do we take some of the stress out of our life so we can live longer?
Yeah. Well, my little 4-point stress strategy is number one, if at all possible, remove the stress. So if it's a job that's stressing you out, I actually have a patient I saw yesterday. She actually is my wife patient because my wife is originally trained in psychiatry. Her job has stressed her out until the point where she has major depression. And so my wife had put her on disability leave. And then after like a month or two, she told her that she needed to take off for 6 months. After a month or two, they called her and threatened her with her job. And so she comes in and it's like it reversed everything that we had accomplished. So, we were telling her she needs to get out of that stressful situation. So she had to do a whole lot of paperwork or whatever. So anyway, first thing is try and get rid of the stress. Don't let a job kill you. Don't let a relationship kill you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is try and change how you respond to the stress. Like turn off CNN, turn off Fox News. Just don't.
I agree.
If the world blows up, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. You're just going
Dr. Taylor,
to.
let me just interrupt you for a minute
Yeah.
because there's something going back to work. I have noticed that a lot of friends of mine
Uh-huh.
that their jobs that the companies they're with are now asking them to do a lot more work, not
Right.
any more money,
Yeah.
but so they don't have to have so many people on staff. And I am noticing that more and more. And I notice that's what is causing some of the stress out there.
Yeah. And sometimes you see what happens, and I see this in the patients that I see, is that they're working from home, but they're working from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed.
Right.
So instead of having an 8-hour day where they go somewhere, they work, they come home, they relax, they'll start working first thing in the morning. And some of these companies, because they're international, and these salespeople, they have to answer sales calls in China and answer sales calls here. So they're getting
Right. Yes.
and so you think you're better off by working from home, but really you're working twice as hard, and you really have no guideposts of when to begin work and when to stop. So you're working yourself to death. And I tell these patients, hey, look, this job will kill you. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to go and find somebody else. They're
Yes.
not, and your wife or your husband, your children, they're going to be, at the funeral home crying, and your boss is just going to go back to work the next day. So, you got to understand where you are in this company and how much more important you are to your family than you are to, whatever corporation that you're working for. So, yeah, you need to get rid of the stress.
Dr. Taylor, I know you see patients that maybe aren't doing well,
Mhm.
and which I would think that would be stressful. You become close with your patients,
Yeah.
and maybe that they might not have long to live, or whatever, they might have cancer. How do you deal with that when you come home from the office?
Well, this is what I would tell you. I don't see a whole lot of terminally ill patients. Yeah, I've had some cancer patients who have come to me really too late for me to help them.
Mhm.
But I kind of say, I try to help people who are not well become well. I'm not necessarily the person who is taking care of sick people, trying to get them non-sick. So I don't see a lot of, death and destruction or whatever. So,
Thank God.
and the reason why I changed my whole life is that I used to do OB, where you talk about sleep. You know,
yeah.
I had a lot of 2 a.m. deliveries and interrupted sleep, which I could handle when I was in my 30s. But when I got to my 40s, I couldn't handle it. I mean, it was too stressful on my body. Not that the work was stressful, but it was that interrupted sleep and trying to catch up with my sleep. It was very stressful, and I could tell my mental function was going down, because I used to also give lectures and travel. And I was in Las Vegas giving a lecture, and my mind went blank. It was a lecture that I had done 1,000 times. I could do it, sleepwalking.
Right.
I had worked myself to a bone, and I was traveling, and I could not remember what to say when these slides were up. And the people who were there, they had heard me speak before. They knew there was something wrong with me. And so they called my wife. They made sure I got on the plane. And my wife, for 6 months, said I could not travel. I mean, I would go to the office and patients were talking to me, and I really couldn't process what they were saying.
Wow.
So I've been there, done that. And so I changed, I stopped traveling. I took some supplements, IVs, whatever. And I have arranged my life. I take Wednesdays off. That's why I can do this podcast. So
Right.
I have changed my response to the stress. I will not let my job, and I love my patients, but I'm not going to let them kill me. And if my patients are watching, I love you, but I'm going to take my vacations and I'm going to take my Wednesdays off, because, again, if I'm dead and gone, they'll go find another doc. I mean, that's just what I have.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, all right. So
But stress is very important, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then the third thing you want to do is you want to repair the damage caused by the stress. And that's what I was talking about. You want to repair your adrenal gland. You want to repair your gut, help your brain to work better. So there's all kinds of things you can do with that, IVs, supplements. And then 4, stress is not going to go away. You have to prepare your body for future stress. You have to make sure that you have enough nutrients, you eat well, you sleep well, so that you can handle the stress that's going to come and not fall into that deep abyss of being non-functional because stress has overwhelmed you.
Does stress disrupt hormones?
Yeah, they definitely do. I'll give you an example, and that's why I said I wanted to touch on this, is that I had a patient yesterday or the day before who had been a long-time patient. We just been following our hormones. She'd be doing fine. It was just a check-in, but all of a sudden this time, we do it every 6 months, her estrogen, excuse me, her estrogen had like quadrupled, her progesterone was down. And so I was like, wow, this must be a lab error. What is going on? So we did a telemedicine, and I said, your numbers are just way out of whack. What's going on? So she told me her 93-year-old mother, who she had been taking care of, had passed away a week before she did that test. So she was trying to get her father situated, who's also in his 90s. So she was just saying it had been a stressful 4 or 5 months because she knew her mother was deteriorating and then she passed away.
Right.
And I'm like, that's it. She had gone where for years and years we had just kept the same dose. She was fine. It was just a little courtesy visit we'd have. And all of a sudden this time, and her symptoms had come back. She wasn't sleeping. She had hot flashes. And so that's what happened. And I told her, here's what happens when you have stress. A protein called sex hormone binding globulin gets depleted. So it makes you have more free estrogen. So even though she hadn't increased her estrogen dose, more of it was free and available. So it had taken her out of balance, even though this was the same dose she had been on forever. And so that's what happens. And I learned that a long time ago. Somebody can be doing fine and a stressful event comes around and their hormones go haywire. That's a lot of times what happens when patients are going through the fertility workup. A lot of times when we go through a fertility workup, because it's so stressful, and when it doesn't work and it's not taking, the stress from that actually works against you trying to get pregnant. And so a lot of times you'll see they'll go through this fertility workup, nothing happens. They'll say, the heck with it. We'll just adopt or we'll do something, whatever. And then all of a sudden they get pregnant because the stress of trying to get pregnant has been relieved. So yeah, stress definitely disrupts hormone function.
So how do you treat that patient when they're out of whack like that?
Yeah, well, here's what I told her. So we can do two things. We don't want to change your dose of medication. I'm telling you that this is going to, it's going to subside as soon as you get through your grieving process.
Right.
Now, I can get, we can do some things to help your cortisol go down, but if it's not too debilitating, I'm just telling you, it's nothing to worry about. You've been in a stressful situation. Hopefully, her parents were 90. She was doing well. She was like, she's in a better place. She's not, overly grieving. She's really kind of relieved that her mother's not suffering anymore. So hopefully her grieving process will be short-lived. Probably the most stressful stuff she's already gone through. Now it's more of a recovery stage. So she was comfortable with just waiting. I said, hey, look, in 3-4 weeks, if you're not feeling better, then we can do something. But I'm just letting you know this is due to what you've been through for 8-9 years. This dose has been perfect for you. The labs have said it was perfect. So she was fine. She was like, okay, thanks, doc. I'll just grieve and then we'll see what happens. So that's a lot of times what you have to do is really dealing with the stress, not the hormones. If you can get the stress back in line. Now, the other thing you can do is give supplements like adrenal adaptogens like ginseng, rhodiola. We have something called Adrenacare that we can do to try and help people to adjust to stressful situations. And I also tell people when I'm talking about prepare for future stress, you want to take vitamin C and this adrenal supplement because that helps you to accommodate stress better. It helps you to adjust to stress better where you don't totally decompensate when you're in a stressful situation.
I'm just amazed how stress can affect fertility.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. It also, it decreases sperm motility in men. It decreases testosterone function in men. It causes anovulation, or women don't ovulate when they're under stress. And so a lot of times when they don't ovulate, it throws their menstrual cycles off. And it's all due to stress. College, it's long been known that two things happen. College girls, if they're rooming together, their menstrual cycles will start to be identical. They'll start to menstruate at the same time. And the other thing that's shown is that when it's around test time or exam time, that a lot of times these women, these girls or whatever, they will begin to have irregular periods. Their PMS is worse because the stress of that exam period ends up throwing off their menstrual cycle. So stress causes anovulation, which is going to lead to infertility or temporary infertility. Also, it decreases sperm production, decreases testosterone. So yeah, it has a big impact. And maybe it's an evolutionary thing where the body says, hey, there's a lot of stress going on. Pregnancy is a stressful situation for the physical body. So maybe we don't want to have these two stresses going on at the same time. So it may be a protective mechanism for the body to not physically stress a woman out at the same time she's emotionally or mentally stressed.
So stress can actually make menopause worse, and it can affect erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Well, let's talk about erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
So when you're under stress, that means you have a lot of adrenaline. I mean, you're in this fight or flight mode. Well, in order to have an erection, the other part of your nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we call the rest and digest nervous system, that has to be dominant in order to have an erection. Now, men may remember, or maybe you go through it now every once in a while, even if you don't have erectile dysfunction, if you're stressed, or we call it performance anxiety. When a man is worried about performing, it's more likely he's not going to be able to perform. That's because he's so anxious about having an erection. He doesn't have an erection because his parasympathetic nervous system, which is the more relaxation type nervous system, is being overcome by the sympathetic nervous system. So stress has a part in erectile dysfunction. Now, there's also a cardiovascular blood flow part of erectile dysfunction, but the nervous system definitely has a part in it too. Now, just like I was talking about with the patient who her mother passed away. So that's menopause. So a lot of times women are going through menopause, sometimes in a very stressful part of their lives. You're talking about in their late 40s, early 50s. A lot of times that's when kids are going to college. A lot of divorces happen during this time, or they've happened previously. So, they may be a single parent, or they're worried about how they're going to pay college tuition, or now their parents are sick. They're 40 or 50, their parents are in their 70s and 80s. So they have all this stress going on. And at the same time, their body is going through a major change. And whenever your body's going through a major change, it's going to be stressful and it's going to cause what I call imbalances. So you have that natural change of menopause, and then you have the stress that may be exacerbating the imbalances. So now you have a worse situation. So you have to look at the actual female hormones, but we always, look at cortisol in these menopausal women to see if that needs to be addressed also.
Dr. Taylor, your wife carries some of the best supplements around.
Yeah.
Is there a supplement for stress or something that takes the edge off?
Oh yeah. We have a supplement called Serene Calm, and it's actually our
Great
best
name.
Yeah. It's our best-selling supplement. I mean, it really is. So its major ingredient is something called phosphatidylserine. And phosphatidylserine, it tells this little gland in your brain called the pituitary gland, it tells it to go back to its normal cortisol rhythm. So cortisol should be high in the morning and low at night. And cortisol mobilizes glucose so that you have the energy to do what you need to do during the day. So it's high in the morning, so you're energetic. At least you're supposed to be energetic. You get tired in the evening, you go to sleep, and then it starts all over the next day. When you've been under a lot of stress, cortisol can be abnormally high. And sometimes what will happen is it'll change its course, and it just is this straight line. So in the morning, you don't have energy. And then at night, you are tired, but you can't go to sleep because cortisol is still running. And then that also causes problems with weight when you don't sleep and your cortisol is up. So to make a long story short, we use Serene Calm in the evening so that it can help make cortisol go down like it should. And the pituitary recognizes that that's the normal course. And then we have another supplement called Adrenacare Glandular, which has things like cordyceps, rhodiola, ginseng. All of those things are called adaptogens. And they're called adaptogens because they help your body to adapt to stress by making something called heat shock proteins. So anyway, not to get too technical, it will raise low cortisol and it will lower high cortisols. So when we have an issue like that, those are the two supplements that we use. We use the Adrenacare Glandular, and then we use something called Serene Calm. Now, just to give you another point, our supplement line is big on combining different ingredients. We feel like a patient's only going to do 2 or 3 things on a consistent basis, long enough to get an effect. So for cortisol, we have 2 things that we use, and they're very effective. So we just don't believe patients are going to take 10 supplements on a regular basis.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
So almost all of our supplements are combination supplements to target a particular problem so that it can actually be effective and the patient can feel the effect. And we feel like the patient needs to feel the effect the first 30 days or they're probably not going to reorder it. So like I told you, Serene Calm and Adrenacare, they are our most popular supplements. And I think they are so popular because they are effective, and because so many people are dealing with stress and stress-related complaints.
Dr. Taylor, what type of patient do you enjoy taking care of?
I'll tell you, I enjoy the patient who has been to regular docs and been told that they don't see anything wrong with them. That automatically tells me that they don't have a significant disease that needs to be treated like a disease, but they have a functional problem. Something's not functioning quite right. It hasn't reached the disease level, the criteria for a disease that we in medicine are taught, but things definitely aren't functioning. And so that's the patient that I have success with. I don't necessarily want to see a patient who's deathly ill and I've got to figure out, exactly making sure they don't have a disease that actually need to be treated like a disease. So I love for the patient to be seeking me as kind of a last resort. That means I probably can help them. If you walk in and you're clutching your chest and say you have chest pain and you think you have a heart attack, I'm calling 911, getting the ambulance to take you the heck out of my office, okay? Because you're not going to have a heart attack in my office. So that's I tell people, hey, if you have an accident out on 285, don't call me. I don't fix broken bones. I don't, do surgery. I don't do any of that stuff. I want to take the person who other doctors are saying, hey, you keep coming to me complaining. I don't see anything wrong with you. You don't have a disease. I don't know what's going on with you. 90% of the time, they have a functional problem that I can probably help them with.
It's probably why your patients live longer, Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. Doctors. And you want them, I want to live longer, but I also want to be living and not, in a wheelchair and somebody's feeding me and whatever. So, I want to live and then die. I don't want to.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, I don't want to live and then the last 10 or 15 years. I saw my parents, just kind of deteriorate over the last 10 or 15 years of their lives. And I think I got into this type of medicine because I'm like, I don't want to do that. And my dad was taking, 10 different medications and he just got worse and worse and worse. My mother, she suffered with dementia for the last 5-6 years of her life. I'm just trying to do everything I can to live life until I die. Some people, I heard them saying is that some people die at 90, but they stop living at 60.
I understand.
We don't. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, and I'm trying to help my patients avoid.
We had a doctor who was an anti-aging specialist, and I can't believe it, especially after listening to you talk for the last year and a half. He just didn't take the way he handled medicine. It should be, because he died of COVID. And you and I have discussed this. I took what I call the cocktail.
Right.
And I was fine the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here a doctor who's supposedly, into hormones and stress and anti-aging, he didn't abide by his own, what he would tell his patients, and he lost his life over it.
Wow. That's awful. Yeah.
I can tell the difference in you and him. Oh my God. It just, you practice what you preach, and he didn't.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. To be credible, I think you have to practice what you preach. I'll tell you, there's not anything that I recommend to a patient that I haven't done myself. Now, I will tell you some of the things I do for the cancer patients, like big doses of vitamin C I haven't done. But before we do anything, or we recommend things to our patients, we pretty much do them ourselves. So yeah, we try to practice what we preach, and I think it's hard to believe some doc who's telling me to be healthy when he's obviously unhealthy. So
Yes, right.
So yeah, so yeah, we tried our best to practice what we preach.
And boy, I tell you what, your diet, and I call it a diet, it's not a diet because you do eat, is just, you've got me hooked on it. And I'm surprised how these plant-based foods aren't bad, Dr. Taylor.
I know. I'll tell you, I don't even think about eating meat anymore. And I'll tell you what prompted it is that I saw these patients who had cancer, early stage cancer, we were saying, and they were trying to do everything they could to help alleviate themselves of cancer or keep it from growing or whatever. And all of them were talking about how they stopped eating meat. So I'm like, well, let me see if there's any validity to this. And I was shocked. I'll tell you, I was shocked. I'm like, it is definitely a connection between eating meat and increasing cancer risk, and how if you stop, it slows down cancer growth, and you start eating plants that have all of these cancer-fighting chemicals, and we're giving IV vitamin C, so you eat fruits and vegetables and things. And I said, okay, again, I got to practice what I preach. And so I went to a plant-based diet. My daughter kind of got me started on it also. And I'm telling you, I love it. It's such a variety of things you can have when you're talking about all the different, vegetables and things. And, sometimes we get in a rut where we think of vegetables as a salad, but you can be very creative by using vegetables and fruits and plant-based. And there's so many plant-based things that you can buy in the grocery store that mimic meat. So it helps you to control your weight. It helps you with your energy level. It helps your gut to work better. You're going to have more frequent bowel movements, which help you to detoxify. So,
Dr. Taylor, remember when we did a show on plant-based cooking? In fact, we're going to get your daughter on because she's actually a chef when it comes to plant-based foods. But the show that we did about plant-based foods was probably one of our biggest shows. We had more people watching that show, and I was shocked. And I guess that's why a lot of the fast food companies are going to plant-based products.
Yeah, I think this, new generation, millennials and whatever other generations, X, Y, Z generations, they are a lot more health conscious. I think they are, they're kind of this, I don't want to take medication kind of generations. And so they're concerned about the environment. They're concerned about, animal protection. So, it's become very popular. If you go on YouTube, there's all kinds of plant-based chefs show you different things you can do with plants. We make carrot hot dogs that really taste like hot dogs, and they're really carrots. It's just all types of creative, innovative things you can do with the plants. And you can learn it all on YouTube or Google, or, there's all these plant-based chefs and cookbooks. So it really opens up a whole new line of thinking when you're talking about what you eat.
Well, the name of your practice is Taylor Medical Group. Actually, you can go to your website. It's www.taylormedicalgroup.net. Make sure you put the .net in there. We had several people call us and say it's not working, but you got to put in .net. Dr. Taylor, for those who are listening on radio, give them your phone number also.
Yeah. Our office number is 678-443-4000. 678-443-4000. And then again, you can go on that website and you can book an appointment. And we try to make our website very informational. So if you have any questions about what I talked about today, a lot of that information is on our website. And if nothing else, you can just go there and learn something, and maybe you can put it into practice, yourself.
Well, we so appreciate the time you give us each month, and thank you so much. You were definitely God sent, Have a wonderful holiday weekend, Dr. Taylor,
All right.
and we will see you again next month with more Ask the Experts. Thanks,
All right.
Dr. Taylor.
All right. Thanks a lot, Steve.
I love this guy. I mean, he's amazing. I mean, listen, if you've got something that your doctor says that I don't know what it is, you know what? Give Dr. Taylor a call. Go to his website at taylormedicalgroup.net. And I'm not saying for sure Dr. Taylor can help you, but I got to tell you something. You got a much better chance. I'm just so glad we have him. And that's going to bring us to the end of the show today. We will be back with you again next Tuesday with more Ask the Experts. Next Tuesday's actually going to be, we'll probably repeat today's show because that's the 4th of July. And that'll be our first time we'll be doing a repeat. So it'll be repeating today's show if you missed any of it. Have a wonderful week. God bless everybody. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.